Good morning and welcome to today's session of Moments with Clara. Today we're going to bring together the information that we've shared about when a child dies by drug overdose and make this a session on giving you, the parent, some encouragement. One of the first things I think we need to do is educate ourselves on drugs. What are drugs? How do they affect our child? How do they affect the mind of a child? What is addiction? Why is addiction so terribly hard to break? All of these things are vitally important to us understanding what happened to our child, why there is no quick fix to a child that uses drugs, why we cannot fix that child, why that child has to make the decision for him or herself, the work involved with overcoming drug addiction. And when we educate ourselves like this, then we will begin to see more clearly that we did the best that we could. So that leads into the next portion of this bit of encouragement for parents. Remind yourself often that you did do the best that you could do with the knowledge that you had. It's not easy dealing with a child with drug abuse. Often children become kind of mean. They back away from us. They don't want to be near us. They withdraw from society as a whole. They become a different person, in other words, and we don't know how to deal with that. We respond in different ways, often in a way that agitates or upsets our child even more, and that just turns our child more directly to drugs. So it's a vicious cycle. Remind yourself as a parent over and over and over again, you did the best that you could do. Remember, you were not responsible for this addiction. You could not fix it yourself. This needed a lot of work, a lot of time, a lot of education on the part of your child also. It was a partnering thing. And often a child resists this because they don't understand the depth of addiction, what drugs can do, or how a drug overdose can actually be the final moment of their lives. Lastly, please, please, please forgive yourself. Now, I know we talked about forgiveness many times in these short sessions of Moments with Clara. This is also a crucial element in working through the grief of child loss when a child has died due to a drug overdose. Forgive yourself, please. Don't let this eat you up over and over every day. Sometimes things are totally out of our control, and this is one of those times. We can't control every moment of our child's life. I always used to say in my own family and raising my kids, once they got to school, they were no longer just my kids. Then they belonged to the teachers, to the students, to others, they became very social and socially involved. They were no longer just mine. Their minds and influences became involved with others. It is our hope and prayer that as parents, our children listen to us and that what we speak overrides what others tell them, but we know that's not always true, at least not when our kids are growing up. Remember again that a child's mind is not fully developed. Even when they're in their 20s yet, many of the young adult minds are still developing. They can't set proper boundaries because their minds aren't developed to do that yet. So what we say matters, but it might not matter to them as much as we'd like. And this is obviously true with drug abuse. So forgive yourself. You did what you could do with the knowledge that you had, and you did what you could do with the emotional tug of war that you were in. You did what you could do with the finances that you had. Not everyone can send their child off to a well-respected, lavish drug rehab. Many times we depend on locally run rehabs, and often they're not the best. Sometimes we need to remove our child from a local environment. That costs money, thousands of dollars often. If we wanted a Christian rehab, often private Christian rehabs cost much, much money. So go easier on yourself. You did what you could do with the tools that you had. Your child ultimately is the one who took the drugs. We can't control everything that our children do. It's a hard lesson, isn't it, for parents? I remember when I found out that my kids, every one of them began dabbling in alcohol, underage drinking. It was a blow to me. I had taught them over again and over again about, not doing that. I did not keep alcohol in my home at all. And then I find out my children were involved. They were going to parties. They partook of alcohol underage. They did use too much alcohol. None of them, thankfully, got a DUI. They kind of contained themselves a little bit, only because I think, became so upset, and they didn't want to see that. But it's a blow to us as parents to think, we've done our best to teach our kids and they still don't listen. That's part of kids growing up. And sometimes the consequences of wrong choices are really terrible, as in when a child dies by a drug overdose. I don't believe that any child means to do this. I believe that the drugs are very, very involved on their minds and overtake their minds, and this is what happens. Lastly, I'd like to say, find something that you can do to teach others or to share with others so that other parents don't have to go through what you did, or so that other students, other children, young adults don't have to go through what your child do. Be an advocate. Step up to the plate, and if you're not a public speaker, maybe you can write. Maybe you can send letters to your letter to the editor. Maybe you can share at your PTSA at school. Maybe you can go speak to your school board. Maybe you can send a written letter to your legislators. Do something in honor of your child's life. Remind yourself every child's life matters. Your child's life mattered more than what we can ever imagine. Your child died a death that is tragic. Bring something from that to others so that they don't have to go through what you've been going through. This grief is a hard grief. It's a very, very difficult journey that you're on. Please be gentle with yourself, forgive yourself, educate yourself, be kind to yourself, and remind yourself ever so much that you truly did the best that you could do with the tools that you had. I hope in some way today's words have encouraged you even just a little bit. I know that we could spend a lot more time on this topic, and perhaps we will touch it again in a couple months. For now, please be encouraged knowing that you are a parent who is loved. Your child mattered immensely. Live your life according to that. Be encouraged. I hope your grief is a bit softer today, and I'll be back tomorrow with some more Moments with Clara.